Shrimadbhagavatam, Divine Grace, founder of Iskana Bhai, Charanadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantara Shrimadbhagavatam ki, their most merciful Lordship, Shri Shriharakanja Bihari ki, Shri Jagannath, Shri Baladev, Mai Subhadra ki, Shri Nataji, Shri Balagopal ki, Shri Shivarnitai ki, Nitai Go Prema. All glories to the assembly. All glories to the assembly. All glories to the assembly. All glories to the Lord and Spirit of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Someone has moved the marker. We're in chapter 7. Text 25. 26, is that it? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayad Nastakrayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naishtaki. Reading from Shrimadbhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, Text 26. Kim Idam Svit Kuto Beti Kim Idam Svit Kuto Beti Deva Na Vedmi Aham Deva Na Vedmi Aham Sarvato Mukam Ayati Sarvato Mukam Ayati Teja Parama Darunam Teja Parama Darunam Kim Idam Svitkito Veti Deva Na Vedmiyaham Sarvato Mukamayati Teja Parama Darunam Kim Idam Svitkito Veti Deva Na Vedmiyaham Sarvato Mukam Nayati Teja Paramadarunam Kim Idam Svitkito Veti Deva Na Vedmiyaham Sarvato Mukam Ayati Teja Paramadarunam Kim Idam Svitkito Veti Deva Na Vedmiyaham Sarvato Mukamayati Teja Paramadarunam Kim what is Idam this Svit does it come Kuta where from Vaiti be either Deva O Lord of Lords Na not Vedmi do I know Aham I Sarvata all around Mukam directions Ayati coming from Teja effulgence Parama very much Darunam dangerous Kimidam Svitkito Veti Deva Na Vedmiyaham Sarvato Mukamayati Teja Paramadarunam. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charanatman Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O Lord of Lords, how is it that this dangerous effulgence is spreading all around Where does it come from? I do not understand it. Please repeat. O Lord of Lords.
O Lord of Lords.
How is it that this dangerous effulgence is spreading all around? Where does it come from? I do not understand it. O Lord of Lords, how is it that this dangerous effulgence is spreading all around? Where does it come from? I do not understand it. Purport by His Divine Grace. Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Anything that is presented before the personality of Godhead should be so done after due presentation of respectful prayers. That is the standard procedure. And Sri Arjuna, although an intimate friend of the Lord, is observing this method for general information. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshusum Raditam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was realizing that some people tuning into this way that we give class might consider it a little foreign, going through each and every particular word and repeating it and like that. But see, we have Srila Prabhupada revealing the significant importance of preserving everything as it is. And so then as well, when we want to make reference, when we want to know where the references are referring to specific subject matter, we know we have a valid source, word for word, being given to show us why these verses were defined as such and given the meanings that Srila Prabhupada reveals are in these scriptures. So also this particular verse is relating to these prayers of invocation that we have. Before reading each book that we have prayers of invocation. Ultimately as well, it would be well for everyone to know that we give these classes for the sake of bringing everyone up to a higher level of consciousness of love of God. That's our whole purpose in giving class, is to instill within us the love that God has for us, and realizing that then we make advancement in spiritual progress. There's some very important principles brought out in the opulence of the absolute truth. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verse 9, this is the translation. Well, let me read the Sanskrit, actually. Machita matkita prana bodhayanta parasparam katayantas chamam nityam tushanti cha ramanti cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. So here we see Krishna pointing out the nature of the thought processes of devotees. They're always thinking about Krishna. And this is what removes us from the control of the material energy. Our minds not being encapsulated and controlled by our desires, then it becomes free. And by regular devotional service, then, not only does the soul become free from the effects of the material energy, but then it becomes, how you can say, encapsulated by Krishna's love for the soul, and realizing that the soul itself is made of that which the very body of God is made of. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So every verse we see, Krishna's giving us knowledge of how to approach him, how to experience his presence, and what that presence will bring us the experience of. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, this is Krishna speaking, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So we were, maybe it was I was reading in Bhagavatam about how darkness is actually created by light, but it is the absence of light. So even though darkness is the effect of light's absence, in a sense, it's responsible for creating it. And then in another sense, by it being the absence of darkness, it's also, see, because there's no darkness whatsoever in the spiritual world. So darkness is made evident by the light that there is in the material world and its absence. So this material universe, the entire material universe, is only giving to us a perverted reflection of what the spiritual world is like. And in effect, see, even this light in the material world has the ability to cast shadows. But there are no shadows, there's no darkness in the spiritual sky. So, on the one hand, we see everything in this world has a means for the person who is spiritually minded, has the means to be able to reveal to us some particular aspects of the completeness of the personality of Godhead. But without guidance from the Supersoul, it's like a perverted reflection. Arjuna said, "You are the supreme personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You're the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn, the greatest. All the great sages such as Narad, Asita, Devala, Vyas confirm this truth about you, and now you yourself are declaring it to me. O Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand your personality." And see, this is pointing out people who are not following Krishna's teachings don't have an understanding of the personality of Godhead, even though they are proclaiming themselves to know God. Because what is dependent upon our ability even to accept this knowledge is our desire to surrender to the will of the Supreme. And then he reciprocates with us accordingly. So, in a sense, we are restricted by our own desires to want to know Krishna, to want to know God, to want to go beyond this present environment that we find ourselves in, which is of a temporary nature. Indeed, you alone know yourself by your own internal potency, O Supreme Person, origin of all, Lord of all beings, God of gods, Lord of the universe. So, too, when people see us singing, and then in the beginning we're chanting Jaya Radha Krishna, and then we're chanting Jagannath, and we're chanting Shri Baladeva, yes. So people might say, oh, you're worshiping so many gods. But in Christianity, there is the knowledge of the dealing that the children of Israel had, which the book of the Bible is mostly a history about these people that had reciprocation with God. You can see that there is a time in history that God is manifesting to his people various aspects of his own personality. And so what we are doing in reciting names of God who appears at various times throughout history, it's not like God leaves mankind without his presence ever. And he returns when that presence is at the point of not being recognized by anyone. Then he incarnates again and comes to bring mankind that knowledge once again. So what it is would be the equivalent of doing, which they don't have the understanding of either, is inciting and invoking with our consciousness, in our consciousness, the ways that God has dealt with man all throughout eternity. And so Moses gave people the understanding that the name that they were calling God at particular times through history was according to the relationship he was giving them. So he could be looked at as a God of war. He could be looked at as a God of peace. He could be looked at as the God who delivers his people from the flood. Can be looked at from so many perspectives, who spares people from the onslaught of warriors who have no knowledge of God, who came to fight against the Israelites. So this is more or less a realization for us as well when we invoke these names of God, revealing that God has always had his presence with mankind on the planet. But now we are being made aware of the fact that this golden age now, in its beginning stages of development, has the potential to be able to have a unifying factor for all the spiritual paths of the world, all the souls that are involved in spiritual advancement in the entire planet. Krishna is going to remake this entire planet in a way that eventually everyone is going to come to the knowledge of the superiority of God's ways. And when this happens, then, what will be restored to mankind that has been lost by the advent of Kali Yuga, as the Bible as well prophesies, knowledge of God will cover the earth like the waters cover the seas. So our earth is covered by 70% water, which means there will be more knowledge of God than there will be people. There will be more knowledge of God than there will be. So there will be no fear. All fears will be wiped away. When this golden age fully manifests, these souls that are longing, wanting to take residence on this planet. Why? Because Lord Chaitanya just came here 500 days ago for them. It's only 500 years to us. There's only 500 days. It's like a year and a half. Year and a half ago, Lord Chaitanya was on this planet, to the demigods' ways of thinking. And there were those among them, as recorded in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that were observing, just as they came and observed Krishna's pastimes 5,000 years ago. It says in flying machines, which we even have writings on how to create these machines, but because there are no people qualified. But when knowledge is fully restored, all of this knowledge of God, and most importantly, love of God, is going to be the controlling factor that will bring in long life as well. Kali Yuga, at the end of the 10,000 year age, which is described as the golden age, it will be at that time that the dwindling starts happening, and that there will be no more knowledge of God until such a yuga begins. And then man will become more and more degraded. But this is by man's desire. Just as we see now, how few of us in Michigan, we have 2 or 3 other temples, but how few people right now in the world are even thinking that a life lived in God's service means sitting in a class every day to hear Shrimadbhagavatam, to hear spiritual words that are spoken by God. Nobody's even thinking like this. The things they do through the week is all for the maintenance and continuance of their existence in this world, to satisfy the needs of their physical bodies. And all these efforts made throughout the week are all simply for existence, just to feed the physical body and to provide comforts for life that we can exist here on this planet. But until love of God is actually realized, people will not even be brought to the understanding of the need for the soul at every moment to realize its relationship with God, that responsible position the soul has surrendered to taking part in, those activities, those spiritual activities that give the soul full realization of the eternalness of the self and the relationship with Krishna that we have and that we have had and that we have forgotten about. Srila Prabhupada says, I'm not coming to teach you something new. I'm coming to tell you, remind you what you already know. Yeah. See, that's the thing the soul has to be brought to the awareness of, is what we are. This is what is meant by self-realization, which automatically brings with it the satisfaction that we are looking to everything else to try and find in the world. So when we come to the realization that we are made of that substance we're looking for, and that is what is meant by self-realization, the soul surrendering to God then comes to realize that this connection we have with God has always been and always will be. It is only by our desire to forget, by running out into the world to try and find some pleasure or satisfaction other than that found in the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so when people are, just imagine, if everyone is in their home, able to find right where they are the most satisfying experience of pleasure and love of God, how much gasoline could be saved? How many lives would be kept from endangering themselves just by driving out in the road, just by going to work? You have to risk your life just to get to work. Whereas when a devotee's sitting down to chant, he doesn't look at it like much of a challenging experience that he's going to now have to risk his life to sit down and chant Krishna's names. In fact, once a devotee falls in love with Krishna, this becomes the most glorious experience of his day. That time spent chanting and having Krishna fill his mind, or her mind, or their mind, whatever we want to consider ourselves to be. This obsession now in the material universe with trying to identify with some form of gender. This is total insanity. You are what you are.
Right.
Just be who you are and accept the perfection of that has been given to you for the exact purpose of perfecting you. It may be looked at as imperfection by it. Maybe you've been born with one finger. Maybe you've been born with an arm a different way. Maybe you've been born with, functions on your body that people don't have. But the scriptures say that it is a serious offense against God to look at the body of a person who has surrendered to God as anything other than that which God has given to them as a means of serving. And so no matter what we find ourselves in the position of, we can know, irregardless of that situation, we have the means and the facility with the consciousness to be able to chant God's names and to experience God's presence at every moment. We can know love in its completeness, in its purity. And that's what Arjuna is experiencing with Krishna right in the middle of a battlefield. It's like, where in the world are you going to think of yourself to find love by running out in the middle of a battlefield and having a conversation with somebody? I mean, this is just beyond the imagination. And yet, this is what's being revealed to us. It took place on this battlefield 5,000 years ago. O Krishna, O Supreme Mystic, how shall I constantly think of you, and how shall I know you? In what various forms are you to be remembered, O Supreme Personality of Godhead? O Janardhan, again, please describe in detail the mystic power of your opulences. Now, just think about this. This question being asked by Arjuna. There's no sin in asking God questions. So when you are chanting, that is most intimate to you to know. What do you want to know from God? What do you want from God? That's what Krishna is revealing, that we have the opportunity to have satisfied. Krishna is going to reveal here to Arjuna what is the best thing to think about. But we can know by the constant chanting of these holy names that, this is what really gives us the fullness of life, filling our minds with these experiences of power, His supremacy, not our supremacy, but His supremacy. To see even in the smallest form of life, that potential for that living entity to eventually become a human being. We don't see like that. O Janardhan, again, please describe in detail the mystic power of your opulences. I'm never satiated in hearing about you. The more I hear, the more I want to taste the nectar of your words. Now the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, yes, I will tell you of my splendorous manifestations, but only of those which are prominent, O Arjuna. For my opulence is limitless. Even God Himself has so much opulence, He can't reveal it all in one sitting. Okay. This is what He's saying. I'll give you as much as I can right here, right now, and there's a little period of time we have to share with it. I am the super soul, O Arjuna, seated in the hearts of all living entities. I'm the beginning, the middle, and the end of all beings. The Bible says the Alpha and the Omega, which is the beginning and the ending as well. But He is everything in between also. Oh, of the Adityas I am Vishnu. Of lights I am the radiant sun. Of the Maruts I am Marichi. And among the stars I am the moon. So he's pointing out that all of these things that come from his own being, from his own self, from his own mind, from his own consciousness, everything is coming into being. And of everything that we see of those of the species, those of the subjects, the objects of our senses, the greatest of those is Krishna. The most powerful of those is Krishna. The most obvious of the night light, the moon, is the most obvious. Of the Vedas, I am the Samaveda. So Samaveda is Yajurveda put into musical, rhythmic, and melodious singing. But it is a battle cry. Included in that Yajurveda are the mantras for the Brahmastra weapon, which we, in our newly developed technologies, would call the atomic bomb. But it's put into song. So Krishna, you could say, takes pleasure in his opulences, because they are of a pure nature. His opulences are of an eternal nature. Of the Vedas, I am the Samaveda. Of the demigods, I am Indra. So this, Krishna makes the statement that he is the ability in man. Now, Indra also being the controller of the heavenly planets. Krishna's liking, this is peculiar now, because I recently, a few years ago, came to the realization that this person being called Jesus Christ, always referring to his Father in heaven, is revealing who he is. And here Krishna says, I am Indra, who is the Father of heaven. He's the Father in heaven who gives instructions to all the demigods who are performing the functions that have this planet ruled by the rains, the winds, the elements, the sun, the moon. All these things of creation are controlled by the demigods. The King of heaven. Of the senses, I am the mind. And see, when the mind gets filled with Krishna's thoughts, which is what happens when we chant, when the mind gets filled with that, the soul that is having the mind filled with that is experiencing that eternalness of Krishna. That's why we are being given this chanting to do. And that mind then, being our friend in that position, when it is being used to chant Krishna's name, no longer is it the enemy trying to find ways for us to find pleasure in this material world. Now it's finding total satisfaction because it is linked to, through consciousness, the mind links to the mind of God. That's what Krishna consciousness is, the mind of God in us. So then Krishna is giving us the ability through his consciousness, sharing it with us. For us, by being God conscious, we are then able to speak the things he has spoken. And in living beings, I am the living force. Consciousness itself, it says in the parentheses. So Krishna is this consciousness that we have, that he wants to use in the material world to deliver all those souls that we can't do. We can't deliver anybody. Oh, I can bring a pizza somewhere, but I can't give them eternal life unless that pizza is offered to Krishna. But this is what Krishna is obviously wanting to do with all of his followers, all of his believers, He's wanting to empower them in us, to give us his thoughts, to give us his power, to give us his consciousness. Then we can perform the acts that he wants performed in the world, and that's how he becomes our ability. Of all the Rudras, I am Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is, of course, the source of all the Rudras. Of the Yakshas and Rakshasas, I am the Lord of Wealth, Kubera. So he is the leader also of the demons. Of the Vasus, I am fire, Agni. Now, Agni being a person, we see fire in this world as some inanimate object, right? We don't think of it as alive. But fire is a living being. Agni. Now, there are actually mantras of invocation of Agni by which Brahmins can start the fires on the altar. They don't need matches. They don't need anything else, just the mantra. And that mantra, by naming Agni with the proper respect and the proper mantra spoken, then appears. Just like when we ask Krishna to come, these demigods similarly have the same abilities. This is how they were taking birth and giving birth to women. Women who learned the mantras, then they were able to call the presence of the demigod they wanted to have association with. And the Bible also brings out, just as Bhagavatam brings out, as Arjuna was brought, all the Pandavas were brought this way. These heavenly beings from the heavenly planets gave birth to 4 children on earth to be of that same heavenly nature. So this is what the whole battle of Kurukshetra was fought by. To a great extent, not only there were, of course, quote-unquote normal human beings, but at the beginning of this age, they as well were born closer to the stature of demigods. So, in the beginning of the world, when it is such a yuga and everything is perfect, then we can say the life that is lived by people on this planet is very much like a heavenly planet. There's no disturbances. Everything works together for all the living entities, and they are all involved in meditation. That's all they need. They can produce anything they want. They have those abilities, all the abilities, that the soul, its latent powers are there, sitting dormant, waiting for the time to come for them to be used in Krishna's service. Now, what happens when souls are endowed with these abilities without spiritual advancement, then they become demonic. Then they want to use these powers for their own upliftment, for their own aggrandizement, for their own building of palaces and things in this world that they think they're going to have pleasure with. And so that's the difference. The only difference between a demon and a demigod is one is using his opulence in Krishna's service, the other is using his opulence for his own pleasure. It's the biggest difference. And which is enjoying the more? The only way we can know, because we've already tried to enjoy in this world. That's what we believed ourselves in the beginning to be born here for, to find pleasure in this world. But as we have already found, pleasure is very temporary in this world. Now it is up to us to prove to ourselves. I can't prove anything to you. You have to prove it to yourself. I can try and persuade you how good an apple tastes, but until you take that bite yourself, you will not know. The words of my conviction may be very persuasive, but until you actually taste. And what is this taste I'm talking about? It's not an apple. It's Krishna's holy names. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama Eva Kevalam. Kalo nasti, 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 Gatiranyata. There is no other way. There's no other way. There's no other way. In this age of Kali, in this age of Kali, in this age of Kali, then the chanting of the holy names of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this will provide for us the nectar. I was just reading yesterday. See, in the heavenly planets, everybody drinks somaras. It is described as the nectar of the demigods. It's the food they have, one drop of which the yogis seek for a Kumbh Mela provides them 12 years. They don't have to take food until the next time Kumbh Mela comes. They don't have to take food if they don't want. They take it for the pleasure of the taste. That's all. In the heavenly planets, Krishna is explaining in Bhagavatam, which they do not get the knowledge of in the heavenly planets. For them to do away with the use of somaras would be for us to do away with feeding our bodies with food, period. And nevertheless, it is described as an intoxicant. From a universal perspective, they are living in that kind of an arrangement because they have performed pious activities previously that grants them the award of that kind of a body that lives off of that somaras. But still it's looked at by Krishna as an intoxicant because of the latent desires. Even spiritually powerful souls can be on the path for a long, long time. These desires can pop up at the moment we let our mind take control and allow desire, then, the mind to run with it. And then we lose the perspective of where we are aiming for pure love of God. So we have to stay fully fixed and remember through the day. Krishna is at every moment giving us that ability to remember him as he is in that original form, playing the flute. And we can be thinking of him in that form. Of all the Rudras, I am Lord Shiva. Of the Rakshasas, I am the Lord of Wealth. Of the Vasus, I am fire, Agni. And of mountains, I am Meru. How in the world can anybody in their right mind think of God as a mountain? But think about this. Every single atom is inhabited by an expansion of Krishna. And it is he that is holding all the atoms together that even make things have form. Because everything that comes out of Krishna's body is complete in and of itself, which this universe did. But it's his external energy. So now the way to keep ourselves safe is to stay in the internal energy, which is that love. So as long as we're not looking to satisfy the senses of this body, which for a devotee automatically happens by the taking of prasadam. Right? But see, there is such a term as gluttony. Right? Which means we can overdo even the thing which we think of as that which is purifying to us. But in the beginning, because we are so much predominantly controlled by the senses of the body, and that which we have fed the body to create longings within these bodies, when we have partaken of foodstuffs that are not given for mankind, they create desires. And so, if we are not creating those desires in our body, we will find satisfaction. And that's what prasadam does for the soul that is taking prasadam every day. But we can't think that we can take prasadam one meal, bhoga the next meal. And then a little prasadam and a little boga, and boga and boga and boga. Boga won't do it. We have to have prasadam every day. That's why Brian asked me the other day when I was on the altar making the offering. The first mantra I learned that I memorized was how to offer food. Because I came to the conclusion by devotees preaching that we do have to offer everything we eat. Everything we eat has to be offered. Otherwise, we're still accumulating reactions by the death we cause to those souls that we put on our plate. Every grain of rice contains a soul. Every pea pod contains a soul. Every potato eye has a soul in it that gives it the ability to grow. We don't eat the eyes. But see, we become responsible for the death of that seed, for the death of the soul, when we take from the vegetable all those seeds. Sometimes we throw them in the garbage. And so if we weren't offering that to Krishna, we would be responsible for those lives. That's why Krishna, giving this process to us, is himself relieving us from what sinful activity that would be, causing the end of the life cycle for all these living beings we put on our plate without realizing that these are souls' contributions, that they have been born for the purpose of also to go back to Godhead. Because we make the life short for that potato now. That potato is left out in the field, very little chance becoming a human being by even, unless those who planted it and pick it are dedicated to the supreme purpose of God. Every single potato that doesn't get offered to Krishna is stuck in the same cycle we were stuck in: birth, death, old age, and disease, going from one body to another, to another, to another. And with no promise that it necessarily be advancement. Because depending upon the consciousness of the soul, if a soul is put into an emergency situation at the time of leaving their body, they may be thinking of their enemy by fear caused by not knowing God. So then they become the same kind of being, warriors out in the battlefield, thinking evil of their enemies, how evil their enemies are. With this being the last thought in their mind, the energy of the mind and that consciousness brings them right into that kind of a situation, to put them in that very kind of body that they're thinking about. So see, there is a word in the English language called gossip. Yeah. Right? Women, I know my mother, she spent hours on the telephone, talking. And then one day I come home from school, and my mother's just talking about this person died, I thought it was somebody in our family. No, it was As the World Turns. And As the World Turns is one of the soapbox daily adventures, a soap opera that people watch as a daily thing. So one of these people had died, and she made the whole neighborhood know, that this person had died, because they're all watching this thing. So human beings now, by modern technology, put themselves constantly in a place to be getting a more degraded body by the things they're thinking of at death. It's not a promise that a human being will get something better. And if he's constantly putting himself into these positions to be conjuring up news. What is news of the world? It's gossip. It's another form of gossip that leads the mind to meditate on things other than God. So while available to the mind, available to the soul, is this eternal supreme divine relationship at every moment. Yet the soul choosing to find that in something else, looks for something else to satisfy that longing the soul has for that perfection of love. And that's where mankind is caught up. Every day that's his experience. Every day human beings are engaging themselves in this way, tying and binding the soul more and more to the lust it has for the things in this material world that it only has to learn cannot provide that which it's looking for. And then what happens, though, is when it does succeed at these pursuits, it more convinces itself that it has found what it is looking for. And then it traps itself even more. So this is how the cycle is. It's like an endless cycle: birth, death, old age, disease. Get a family, get children, get a house, build a house, experience pleasures through satisfying the senses, and die. And then do it all over again. Without the knowledge of God, that's all it ends up being. The beaver builds a house, has children, goes out and has work to provide for the family. The birds do that. The dogs do that. The cats do that. They're all doing the same thing that human beings think is the only thing they have to do also. You'd almost say they're learning from the animals. And this is what they're teaching is something to do. They study animals, some of them. Botanists study flowers. Yes, you got a question? Comment?
It's the same thing like in Egypt, they call it Egyptology, how our ancestors use nature, but in Christianity they call it pagan because they didn't understand the concept.
So see, in Christianity there is that understanding, and yet you will see amongst quote-unquote Christian scientists who are trying to prove God is true using material energy, but they are studying the material energy also without realizing that they can't get absolute truth from the study of the material energy. Krishna gives us absolute truth about everything from personal relationship with him, and that's how it really comes. People hear about the possibility of that, but without connection, this disciplic succession has been lost in Christianity. And they don't see Christ as their guru. They see him as a prophet of old, or even as God of old. Some of them are thinking he's God. But as we see in our scriptures that he's Son, he himself said, Son of Man even, he called himself Son of Man. But he had chosen to take that place to deliver those who would follow him and take part in the lifestyle that he was revealing that he was living. He didn't have a house. He would be kicked out of most churches here. Yeah. When they come to find out his personal lifestyle, they kick him out. Yeah. He's of no good to anyone. Right. Just a beggar. But he didn't beg either. He had everything. He didn't need anything. And see, when this earth is restored to its original position as a heavenly planet, we won't need houses. You won't need anything. And you can pick and eat. It's there. That's how heavenly planets are. Everything is available. But in the heavenly planets, any tree can produce any kind of fruit, Srila Prabhupada says. Here, an apple tree produces an apple. Of course, we can do grafting, and it might produce an apple pear.
Oh, for real?
Right? That's what they do. They graft the pear limb onto an apple tree, and you get an apple pear. But there are trees in the heavenly planets that produce any kind of fruit. Any kind of fruit you ask for is there. And these things will be restored. Another misconception in man's mind is extinction. Krishna has all these seeds saved every single seed there is in a state of preservation. And Krishna knows how to bring them out. Some of them, if they were allowed, when men are 50 feet tall, you could only imagine how big beasts would be. But they have full control over. There is no enmity between the animal kingdom and the human kingdom at that point in history. And so they work together. So you could have a Tyrannosaurus Rex helping you load logs for your house. But you don't need a house even. They don't even need to work together. There's nothing needed. Nobody needs anything. Can you imagine that as a place of an environment to be in? Nobody needs anything. Nobody's sick. Nobody's worried. Nobody's fearing death. Nobody's crying. Nobody's getting in automobile accidents. There's not unnatural deaths. People leave their bodies purposefully. In marriage, the wife would go when her husband goes, by choice. Not that they have to wait for death to call them. And they take birth that way. Elevated souls from the heavenly planets take birth that way by choice. That's how Christ came. By choice he came. So, but we have to get back to the place we came from before we can come back by choice. So we want to go back to Godhead. And that's what every one of these classes is about. Getting us back to Godhead. Getting us back in that state of mind when we are so totally overpowered by love. When we think about Krishna, it brings tears to our eyes that everybody can't have this fellowship and association constantly with the supreme powers that be. And know that all these powers are working for our good. All working for our good. It's glorious when you have in your own consciousness knowledge of God. This human form of life is the greatest now treasure on this entire planet. To find God in this form of life, we have found the greatest treasure there is to find. It's past today. I ran over time.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
So,
There's still time.
You can continue with content.
There's still time. Yeah, I can continue. But I have things to do also. Are there any questions, any comments? Yes.
Number one, appreciate you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
all the
it.
brothers, sisters, Krishna, universal order, omnipotent source.
It's wonderful that you came.
I'm here.
Jai.
I'm your shadow.
All right.
The ancestors brought me here. When I did chat, I talked to you more. I'm doing the live with all the people in the city of Detroit government.
No.
The brother here, if he chooses to, he let you know what I do.
Yeah.
I bring people together for unity,
That's what we want.
for edification.
That's what we want.
I heard one of the brothers, the one that's from Troy, we was talking to him. He said he lives in Troy.
Oh, Ross Creed.
Oh, Rasabria.
And Ross Priest said, "Why don't no black people come here?" So last night, I don't know if you seen me last night. I brought 6 kids with me last night.
I didn't see you yet.
And I walked around with the kids and let
Wow.
the kids see. So, and
Your
they
kids.
Last night?
and their aunties, because I mentor them.
Oh, that's
I
wonderful.
teach, like what you said with the trees and grafting. I teach them about the trees, the environment, capturing carbon, storing carbon, regenerative agriculture.
See, there is a way to study these things with the Supreme. I saw a young Hopi boy sit next to a tree for 3 days. He had communication with the tree. See, that's real knowledge. They look and observe it from the outside and only see the outside. But to know the living force inside, that's the science of Krishna consciousness that we can see in all life. And then we don't want to kill, and we don't want to do harm to any living creature. And see through that also the purpose every living form has to be able to continue those functions, the bodies they've been put into, so that they can go to the next stage. Incorporated into nature, originally, there is a natural progress, but because of the soul's desire, the soul's not restricted. Krishna doesn't force us to think about him. We think about him when we want to. And so he lets us have our way. And that's the problem too.
Free will.
Yeah, we get free reign. And so we don't know. A lot of these desires we develop are not good for us. And then we get them. And then we take joy in them because we don't know they're not good for us.
You gotta get control of my sacral chakra.
Yeah. Well, I would say all glories to your service, Prabhu, because, see, those children you brought here, they probably don't know it, but you could have very well have made the way for them now to enter into an eternal relationship that they will be able to cherish for the rest of their life. That will be a means for them to open up every door of opportunity that should be available to every living entity, just like Martin Luther King's dream, that everyone can be determined by the value of what they have to offer, by their qualifications. Yeah.
That's why I've been telling people, like, because I got to pick my mother up, and she got to be somewhere at 9:30. She works for Innocent, she's a psychologist, and she's down the street at Jeffersonian. And I got a 10 o'clock meeting with the City of Detroit Council. So
there's another woman right down the block here you might make good friends with too, Mother Kalalapa. She goes to a lot of the city council meetings.
She probably know who I am. We've probably seen each other.
Probably have.
Yeah, because I'm chief of staff of mayor candidate, chief of staff of District 5 candidate, and chief of staff of a District 5 police commissioner candidate.
Wow.
And we are in my district, District 4, Letitia Johnson, and I'm her delegate. So she also has the land trust. So I'll be bringing, she has over $12 million. So we're going to be, I'm going to bring her here when she has time on her schedule.
Wow.
And bring in the unity.
Yeah.
With not just the district, but our whole state, nation, and international.
See, this is so important, what you're bringing out. This that we call money, right? It's an energy force that people put their lives into to produce, right? Mm-hmm. But we see that as God's energy coming out of God's body in a what do we call, feminine form. Mm-hmm. And everything that comes out of God's body as an aspect of his personality, in order to be fully revealed, takes a complete form. So we have a complete form of mercy. Lord Nityananda, who is Lord Chaitanya's brother, who appeared just 500 years ago, 500 plus, he takes the form of mercy. God, in his absolute form, Krishna, 5,000 years ago, took the form as a supreme controller and ruler and king, and established how government should conduct itself, and in the conversation reveals to Arjuna, the conversation he had there, how mankind should conduct itself in all of its different aspects. And so his love, because God is a judge, he's a king, he's a ruler. So to reveal that in its totality, love is a completely separate aspect of those aspects of his personality. Included is love, but love in its complete perfection is revealed also as a feminine energy of God in the form of Srimati Radharani, who is an expansion of Krishna's love, who also expands as the giver of knowledge.
Somebody wants to talk to you. I don't know.
Mother Uma?
The Kali.
He's videotaping all this. So I'll show it to you on Facebook. I'll show it to you on Facebook.
How you doing?